Welcome to our deep dive into the fascinating world of viruses. Today we'll answer some of the most intriguing questions about these microscopic entities. You know, when we think about life, we often picture things that move, grow, and reproduce. Viruses do these things, but in a way, sneakier, more roundabout way. They're not really alive on their own. They're like those friends who crash on your couch, eat all your food, and never seem to leave. Viruses need a host like our cells to survive and make more viruses. Over the next few chapters, we'll uncover the secrets of these tiny invaders. We'll explore their structure, their life cycle, and how they interact with our bodies. Get ready for an adventure in microbiology. So, what exactly is a virus? Imagine a tiny package way smaller than even bacteria, way smaller than a single cell in your body. That's a virus. And inside that package? Not much really, just a bit of genetic material, either DNA or RNA, which contains the instructions for making more viruses. That's their one goal in life, make more viruses. But here's the catch. Viruses can't reproduce on their own. They need a host cell, like a tiny factory, to do the work for them. They inject their genetic material into the host cell, hijacking the cell's machinery to build new viruses. It's a bit like a hostile takeover, wouldn't you say? Now, you might be thinking, viruses, bacteria, aren't they the same thing? Not even close. It's like comparing apples and, well, spaceships. Bacteria are single-celled organisms, tiny but mighty, with all the tools they need to live and reproduce on their own. They're like little self-sufficient cities. Viruses, on the other hand, are more like those blueprints we talked about, just instructions for building more viruses. They need that host cell, that factory, to come to life. And when it comes to treatment, antibiotics, those wonder drugs that knock out bacterial infections, are useless against viruses. We need a different approach, like antiviral medications, to interfere with viral replication. Picture this. A virus drifting along like a tiny spaceship encounters a human cell, a bustling metropolis of activity. The virus needs to get inside, but how? Well, they're masters of disguise. Viruses have proteins on their surface that act like keys, fitting perfectly into receptors or locks on the surface of our cells. Once attached, the virus injects its genetic material like a tiny syringe delivering its payload. Now inside, the viral genetic material takes over the host cell's machinery, turning it into a virus-making factory. New viruses are assembled, and when the cell is bursting at the seams, they're released to infect even more cells. Viruses are masters of transmission, spreading from person to person like whispers in the wind. One way is through the air, like when someone coughs or sneezes, launching tiny virus-laden droplets into the air we breathe. Think of it like this. Each droplet is a tiny bus carrying viruses to new destinations. Then there's droplet transmission, where those droplets land on surfaces we touch, like doorknobs or phones, just waiting for an unsuspecting hand to pick them up. And of course, there's direct contact, like shaking hands or kissing. It's like a microscopic game of tag, with viruses constantly on the move. You might be wondering, can viruses survive outside a host, just floating around waiting for their next victim? Well, it depends. Think of a virus outside a host like a fish out of water. They can survive for a bit, but they can't really thrive. Some viruses, like those that cause the flu, are more fragile and can only survive on surfaces for a few hours. Others, like the norovirus, which causes stomach upset, are tougher and can linger for days or even weeks. Factors like temperature and humidity play a big role. So, washing your hands frequently and disinfecting surfaces is key to preventing the spread of these microscopic hitchhikers. You know how some people are picky eaters, preferring pizza over broccoli? Viruses can be picky too when it comes to the cells they infect. This is called tissue tropism. You see, our cells have different receptors on their surface, like different locks on different doors, and viruses have evolved specific proteins on their surface that act like keys, fitting only certain locks. For example, the influenza virus targets cells in the respiratory system, which is why we get coughs and sore throats. Meanwhile, the norovirus has a taste for cells in the digestive system, leading to, well, let's just say, unpleasant digestive issues. Just like we inherit our DNA from our parents, Viruses carry genetic material too, but here's where it gets interesting. Some viruses store their genetic information in DNA, while others use RNA. Think of DNA as a master blueprint stored securely in the cell's nucleus. RNA, on the other hand, is like a working copy of the blueprint, carrying instructions from the DNA to the protein-making machinery of the cell. DNA viruses, like the chickenpox virus, are generally more stable and less prone to errors when they replicate. RNA viruses, like the flu virus, are a bit more prone to mutations, which can make them trickier to keep up with. Viruses, those tiny packages of genetic material, are constantly evolving, changing over time like the latest fashion trends. One way they evolve is through mutation, where random errors creep into their genetic code during replication. Think of it like a game of telephone where the message changes slightly with each retelling. Most mutations are harmless, but every now and then a mutation arises that gives a virus an advantage, like making it more transmissible or better at evading our immune system. This is where natural selection comes in. Viruses with advantageous mutations are more likely to survive and reproduce, passing on their traits to the next generation. We've developed amazing antiviral drugs to fight viral infections, but viruses are wily opponents, always finding ways to fight back. Just like we can develop antibiotic resistance, viruses can evolve resistance to antiviral medications. It's a constant arms race. When we use antivirals, we create selective pressure, favoring viruses that can survive and replicate even in the presence of the drug. These resistant viruses can then multiply and spread, making the drugs less effective. That's why it's crucial to use antivirals appropriately and to develop new strategies to stay one step ahead of these ever-evolving foes. Our bodies are fortresses, constantly under attack by invaders like viruses. Luckily, we have an incredible defense system, the immune system. Think of it as a microscopic army, always on patrol, ready to fight off infection. One of the key players is white blood cells, which act like soldiers, patrolling the bloodstream and tissues, searching for anything suspicious. When they encounter a virus, they sound the alarm, releasing chemical signals to call for backup. Other white blood cells produce antibodies, which are like tiny wanted posters, tagging viruses for destruction. The immune system also remembers past infections, so if we encounter the same virus again, it can mount a faster and more effective response. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of viruses. From their simple structure to their complex interactions with our bodies, viruses continue to fascinate and challenge us. But by understanding how viruses work, how they spread, and how our immune system fights back, we can develop better strategies to prevent and treat viral infections. Stay curious and stay informed. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and together we can continue to unravel the mysteries of these microscopic wonders.